first, we're going to hit a little bit of news up top. News came down on Wednesday that Jrue Holiday and the Celtics have reportedly reached agreement on a 4-year, $135 million extension of his contract. The details: Holiday is going to decline the 2024-25 player option from the deal he signed in Milwaukee. Would have paid him about $37.4 million next season. He's going to re-up on a deal where the year one salary is about 7% less, saves the Celtics owners a bunch in luxury tax payments next season, but then he's going to get about $98 to $100 million in new money through 2027-28. The deal locks up Boston's entire top 8 through next season and keeps the good times rolling in Boston, where they've basically lapped the Eastern Conference. Tom, your first reaction to hearing that Jrue Holiday is going to stay in Boston for the next few years?
He's their Andre Iguodala. That's their guy that they're, as he enters into his late 30s, he's a very cerebral player, multiple positions that he can guard. He had kind of an earlier in his career as the guy for his team, and now is going to be their elder statesman. And it reminded me a lot of Andre Iguodala with the Golden State Warriors. Is we want to look, Steph's great. Clay's great. Draymond's great. But the guy who kind of makes everything work in between is going to be Jrue Holiday, the same way that Andre Iguodala was for the Warriors. And so, yeah, you might look at this and say, man, they've got another Supermax extension for Jason Tatum on the horizon. Same already inked for Jaylen Brown. They've inked Kristaps Porzingis to an extension already for a couple more years. These things are starting to add up. But what I like about it is this is what we want our super teams or our title contenders to do, is to retain their top talent and go all in. And so Jrue Holiday, as just the idea of Jrue Holiday, he's older, but so is Andre Iguodala. And I love kind of the symmetry of they were on the Sixers back in the day together.
That's right.
Pre Sam Hinkie. And so there's kind of that full circle moment for Jrue Holiday. And now Andre Iguodala is the head of the players union who's, arguing for raises for players at this age in their career. So hats off to the players union for trying to find ways that players in their 30s can get these big paydays, and you're seeing it here with Jrue. Now, the questions are, can he perform at a high level in the postseason when it matters most? And they're making this extension right now before we can kind of get an answer to that question, which is making for good theater. Dan, they make this commitment right before we can kind of really understand what Jrue Holiday for this Celtics iteration looks like in the postseason.
Yeah, and we mentioned it last week because Jake Fisher, always gone but not forgotten. Jake had gotten some time with Jrue last week and wrote a story about it, and that's really the only lingering question. There is, we saw in Milwaukee, he was like a 39.5% 3-point shooter in the regular season with the Bucks, and then that went down to 30.4% in the playoffs. And so even during the runs, the title run, the offensive game for Jrue waned a bit, especially when it came to the jump shot. And so that's going to be a big issue, or something to keep an eye on here in Boston. But as you mentioned, the difference is the role is so much more circumscribed, and sort of it's incredibly broad in terms of the number of things they have him doing, but it's also more narrowly tailored in a way. It's kind of everything all at once, but also through a keyhole. He is switching so much more than he ever did in Milwaukee under Bud. He's playing the centers and in the middle of a matchup zone. He's spending so much more time in the corners than he ever did because he's not running pick and roll as much. He's not ISOing as much. He's spacing the floor for them. And all of these boxes that they needed checked, he's checking all of them. A number that I loved in sort of researching it this morning, he has made more corner threes this season than he made in Milwaukee. He has made 55 corner threes this morning. He made 54 in 3 seasons as a Buck.
And that's the big number. Go ahead.
I know I'm stepping on the bit. I apologize. We're going to get back to the big number in a little bit. But it's just, you could not possibly ask for more from Jrue Holiday, the player, for what he's given Boston this regular season. And it is a team that has built itself into just a regular season juggernaut where everything is going, all will come down to where are they in May and June. And this is obviously a pretty significant vote of confidence in what Jrue Holiday can provide on those stages for the Celtics. And now, it's going to cost a pretty penny for them to see it, but they're paying to kind of buy their card on the river here, and they're going to find out what it turns over.